The average person today lives for roughly 640,000 hours. Now imagine that entire lifetime suddenly compressed into just 24. The human body grows, matures, and ages approximately 26,000 times faster. Pregnancy lasts around 15 minutes. A baby turns 1 year old just 20 minutes after birth. Adolescence begins at roughly 4 hours, and by the age of 6 hours, a person is already considered an adult. 1 hour of life is equivalent to approximately 3 modern years. 1 minute equals almost 3 weeks. And from now on, arriving 10 minutes late means making someone wait the equivalent of half a year. Fact number 1 is our relationship with time and our own identity. Age is no longer measured in years. Every person receives a personal clock that starts counting the moment they are born. Instead of saying, "I'm 31", people say, "I'm 10 hours and 12 minutes old". Birthdays disappear because nobody survives long enough to celebrate their first one. Instead, people celebrate every new hour. The 6th becomes a coming-of-age celebration. The 12th marks the symbolic midpoint of life. And anyone older than 20 hours is already considered extremely elderly. Fact number 2 is education and childhood. Parents have approximately 20 minutes to teach their child to walk and less than an hour before they begin speaking. 12 years of traditional schooling simply cannot fit into a single day, so education becomes a series of lightning-fast simulations. By the 3rd hour, a child can already read. By the 5th, they choose a future profession. At 6, they begin their first work shift. And within this frantic pace of life, an unexpectedly tender traditional emerges. Instead of textbooks, each generation leaves the next one personal video messages filled with lessons and advice. Those few preserved minutes of someone's voice after they're gone become the most valuable inheritance passed from one person to another. Fact number 3 is work and choice. Choosing the wrong profession becomes extraordinarily expensive. Spending 2 hours doing a job you hate costs the equivalent of 6 years of your present-day life. Even the idea of "I'll try again next year" disappears. There will be no next year. Fact number 4 is communication. A 10-minute meeting consumes an enormous portion of every participant's life. A 5-minute voice message feels like receiving a letter hundreds of pages long. Humanity switches to extremely compressed messages and instantaneous transfers of meaning. The phrase, "Hey, do you have a minute?" begins to sound almost threatening. Fact number 5 is cities. 90 seconds at a traffic light feels like months of waiting. A 40-minute commute would consume almost 3 years of person-equivalent lifetime. People almost completely stop traveling far from where they were born. Cities become extremely compact, with homes, workplaces, hospitals, and schools located only minutes apart. The most expensive feature of a home is no longer the view from the window. It is proximity to everything a person might need. Fact number 6 is everything that cannot be accelerated. Constructing an ordinary building takes longer than the entire lives of the workers who began it. A bridge may be designed by people whose distant descendants will not even know their names when it finally opens hundreds of generations later. No doctor, dispatcher, or engineer can remain in the same profession for decades. Every job becomes a continuous relay race in which workers spend the final minutes of their shifts teaching whoever will replace them. Civilization's memory moves out of human minds and into archives. Governments, hospitals, and power plants can no longer depend on any individual person because dozens of entire lives pass through the same position every day. Fact number 7 is death and memory. With a stable population of 8 billion people, more than 90,000 individuals are born and die every second. Traditional funerals become physically impossible. Bodies are returned to a closed biological system used to grow food for the generations that follow. Cemeteries become digital archives because no gravestone could contain an entire life, one that was incredibly short and yet possibly full. Fact number 8 is love. People meet, fall in love, and build families within a few hours. A relationship lasting 4 hours is experienced like a marriage of many years. The words, "I want to spend the rest of life with you," may refer to only 11 more hours. That does not make them any less serious. Most people live long enough to witness the death of their own parents. If a child is born when their mother is 6 hours old, they will lose her at approximately 18 hours, just as they begin approaching old age themselves. Grief stops being a rarely tragedy. It becomes an ordinary part of every day. Then, the true weakness of this world is exposed during the first massive failure of the global archive. In our world, that would be an inconvenience. Here, hundreds of millions of people died during the time, including doctors, engineers, and power plant operators who never get the chance to pass their knowledge to their successors. New workers arrive for their shifts with no idea what happened before them. Surgeons cannot access their patients' medical histories. Dispatchers do not know where the trains are. Engineers inherit nuclear reactors without the latest records describing their condition. For the first time, humanity realizes that it could lose its entire civilization not over centuries, but in a single day. The world is saved by paper instructions discovered in old cabinets, museums, and abandoned libraries. Simple diagrams make it possible to restart water pumps manually, stabilize power stations, and bring transportation systems back under control. The defining symbol of the crisis is not a politician or an inventor, but an elderly engineer who is 23 hours and 47 minutes old. She has 13 minutes left to live. She spends them not saying goodbye, but writing out by hand the procedure for restarting the city's electrical grid. The instructions are meant for a young worker who was born only 7 hours earlier. The engineer dies before the city's lights come back on. She never sees the result, but her instructions work, and the city comes alive again. The crisis permanently changed how the world operates. Within the next several hours, every country on Earth signs the Global Continuity Protocol. From that moment forward, every professional, from surgeons to power plant operators, must leave behind a paper set of instructions that cannot be erased by any system failure. Every hospital, power plant, and school receives a special cabinet containing these records. It becomes known simply as the memory cabinet, and it may be opened only when the person who could have explained its contents is no longer there. During her own short life, the young worker who received the engineer's final lessons using the same method to train thousands of others. Several generations later, the protocol is named after her rather than after any politician. From that moment on, humanity's greatest virtue is no longer speed or even intelligence. It is the ability to continue someone else's work. In a world where no one can complete a great project alone, every bridge, hospital, and power plant becomes an act of trust between people who will never meet. This is not a scientific prediction. It is simply one altered fact. Human life lasts only 24 hours, followed to its logical conclusion. And it turns out that the value of life is determined not by how much time we are given, but by what we manage to pass on.